Dwight signing to the 76ers while we're on the topic of centers as well.
Love it.
How many minutes do you think he'll play per game? About 20 or?
How many minutes?
Yeah.
It depends if he can coexist with Embiid. So that's an experiment in its own. If he can, I think that's a little bit scary. Just the fact that they would eat up the paint. Dwight is going to be 35 years old next year. He's not as quick as what he used to be. But against most centers, he's still athletic. He can still move around the court. He's still a big body. Embiid is one of the better defensive centers in the league, one of the better centers in the league. So if he can coexist with Embiid, I can see him playing 20 to 24 minutes per game, 20, 22 minutes per game probably. But most likely that they don't really play him together. Most likely they only play him as a strict backup for Embiid and in certain matchups. I think it's more likely that he doesn't play every game and he actually only plays about 15 to 18 whenever he does.
Yeah, I mean, overall, they obviously needed a veteran to come in to try to maybe keep everyone cool down and actually try to get the locker room kind of in check. As much as Jimmy Butler got heat there, he wasn't that bad there. I think he kind of did that for them, and I think they lost that a lot last year too, especially down the stretch. And that team really just seemed debauched by the end. So hopefully, for their own sake, they're bringing guys back together. I mean, the Tobias Harris contract seems to just be hurting them, even though he's a great two-way player. Still,
great player.
Just so much money invested into him. So overall, I still think that alone is probably going to prevent them from going to representing the East in the finals. But I mean, who knows? Ben Simmons can develop to a point where it just makes them the obvious.
And that's what they're expecting, right?
Exactly.
That's what they're expecting Embiid and Simmons to just dominate. Embiid has essentially proven he's one of the top centers, if not the top center of the league. And Simmons, I'm not that high on him, but he is a 6'9" point guard who can run the court and pass essentially as well as anyone in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Simmons overall, he could definitely do things that not every point guard could do. I mean, I remember even in his rookie year seeing him cut the lane. The only guy it reminds me of is the way LeBron cuts the lane. Now guys just always want to move out of the way once he starts going. But, I mean, he still has
to put on a bit of weight.
That, and he just needs to round out his game too. I mean, everyone obviously knocks on his shooting. But, I mean, when you play from beyond the arc, you at some point need to develop some ability, not just that, but also to consistently shoot from the free throw line. Because, I mean, you know that you need to get there probably somewhere between 6 to 10 times a game minimum if you're him. And you really need to start hitting those in the 70, 80, and high 80 probably velocity.
Yeah, I was going to say at least mid 80. Even LeBron usually hits him in the 80s.
Exactly.
People harp on his shooting. But guy can't. Simmons won't shoot a three-pointer. We don't know if he can or not because he just won't do it. That just takes away the fact that you don't have to guard him close. You're now backing up on him. You're retreating on him. You're double team on him. If he added that shooting, we say the same thing about Giannis to a lesser extent. But if you added that shooting, damn, yeah, it'd be solid.
And I mean, it's not like you can't win with him without him fully developing that. I mean, Rajon Rondo won the championship in Boston, and that was his primary thing was cutting lane, dishing it out, being super good on the defensive end.
It's a different era now, though.
It is.
Everyone needs to shoot a three nowadays.
For the most part, I mean, obviously they need to develop around it, but I mean, like you said, like Tobias Harris isn't a lights out three shooter. They don't.
Embiid is slightly above average for his position, but maybe average at best overall.
They lost JJ Redick, who again super great.
He was great for that team.
Exactly. So that's one that always hurts them. So down the stretch, I mean, we'll see. But overall, Dwight Howard, yeah, definitely good signing for them too.
Going back to Dwight as well, I was just looking up his minutes per game. He actually he played in 69 games last year. So not too bad considering. That's probably pretty much every game because of the bubble. But he averaged 18.9 minutes.
Yeah. So
that's every year before that he averaged 25 plus. But that's probably more what we're looking at.
Yeah, so around that 20 mark definitely seems reasonable. Somewhere kind of between that like 16 to 18 mark, definitely.
And I think he'll put up numbers. He'll get his probably 9 points and 7 rebounds a game. His per 36 number is going to be outstanding. Great player.
Yeah, and I mean, he is always working on little things too, like his shooting, like we're talking about. Not saying he's a great 3-point shooter, but at least he works on it. So down the stretch, overall, I mean, they lost Horford too. They basically got to bring in a player who replaces him in a lot of senses on a much, much better deal as well. So,
well, I don't know if he replaces him, but Horford's a great player. Horford somehow didn't fit that team. He just didn't fit the money. Put into that position.
Yeah, exactly. The position was replaced, not necessarily the same player, but like you said, he just didn't fit in the system. So why bring in a guy the exact same? I mean,
they went bigger than Embiid. Horford is too small for him, you know.
But it's the same thing as like I was saying with Harrell in Los Angeles. I mean, it takes out just that much of the brute and the physicality that Embiid's gonna have to go through year to year when you actually get to put a bit of flat load on Howard. When he gets to go in there, gets just knock guys around, makes them not want to play in the post and play as Howard. And you get Embiid, you get to soften him up and play that mid-range game. So overall, I think it's going to go good for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to go fantastic overall as well. One thing we're often forgetting about as well, just like you're just saying, he's an older player, he's experienced. Embiid is going through a stretch in his life where he could be the best center in the league. And at any given moment, if he stays healthy for a full year, puts up the right numbers that we know he can do, he probably would be the best center overall in the league. Dwight was the best center for how many years? 6, 7, 8 years. He was the best center. Like he knows how to handle that limelight of being that star player. I think it's a great person to take under his wing. Horford was an all-star for a couple of years. Dwight's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, especially after winning the title, you already has Defense Player of the Year. You don't need an MVP if you're him, like to ever be there. He was definitely top 5 MVP voting at some point to justify it.
Definitely at one point, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, Dwight Howard will definitely for sure go to the Hall of Fame.